This is a result of 24 hours of working off the start photograph from one of the websites from around the world. They've done a beautiful aesthetic in the photo shoot with the surrounds and the color reflection. So taking their start photo of the Renault Scenic E-Tech 2025 in white and modifying the photograph many steps, working to get to that target vehicle. They could make a set of vehicles of this same one vehicle, the same styling on the outside, and how they tie it together into the inside with the inner trims. On the top trim, when they're at their best, this arrangement they've got is excellent. And if you have it in the what I judge as the best colour to show off the outside is this white, then they have it sitting there that they can make a series of vehicles off this and treat it as the brand styling, as some brands have a real strict tightness to, but to go very much to the extreme in this. That is, the brand styling is the exact same face and some of the treatments on the wraparound of the body, because it works so well on the Scenic 2025, the Renault Scenic E-Tech 2025. If you've got something to the order of perfect, it's a strong word to use, but if it is just so excellent for what its role is in the whole, then don't change it away from that to any degree. Don't let it be that the designer wants to keep being employed and the CEO has a routine of saying, we're making a new vehicle, give us something new but stick with the brand styling broadly, and then the designer has a task to do and they go work around the brand styling and come up with something different. We know the routine, but don't do that. We can joke about firing the designer, but they're going to have something to do because you're putting on a different vehicle format. So this being an example in front of us on screen, it's a different vehicle format, and just how you then tie it together so it is very much, this is a CEO assignment. I'm playing CEO. The assignment to the designer, the CEO sits there for 24 hours with I just did it with Paint Shop, free on Microsoft, and the brutal grind work with some good judgment. Brutal grind work because the software is very basic, and it's a real challenge not to have a picture where it starts a little angled, significantly angled. The line of the vehicle is crossing the line of either front on or side on. So you're very exposed to twisted line results when you start lengthening certain lines. So the CEO with 24 hours and has the good software, because that person has a budget and has the good software, comes up with something like this, but no need to do that now because here it is. So this is there for Renault, and the CEO just grabs it and sends it down to the design department and say, we've got this rule set now. We're doing the scenic face and the rear treatment where it fits in, and the wraparound on all the panel work where it fits to the extent it fits the body shape. And the internals inside are going to be the same as the Renault Scenic, and if there's any feedback or we work it out internally that points out an upgrade, well, for the next vehicle we make, we will put the upgrade in. But what your job here is to do is to put this on this 4,000. Here I get into a little bit of the complexity of the 5 vehicles. Let's not go too deep into that here. But the approach I would use is don't try and do the 3-row vehicle. The Kia EV9 equivalent type of thing is just very big on the road. Yes, you'll get some sales, but it also ends up being very expensive typically. And we can make a 5-vehicle series and sort of straddle the Kia EV5 as an example, sitting a bit below. We're doing a straddling of the Zeekr 7X is more like the current benchmark rather than Tesla Model Y. But historically, it used to always be referred to the Tesla Model Y. The Zeekr 7X and the Tesla Model Y, it's not about those vehicles, it's about the length. It's full function utility, 2 rows, both rows, accommodation at least on the horizontal, is full complete rather than compromised. And then there's some storage out the back, so and then some length in the bonnet, which gives crumple zone opportunity if they go and take that, do a good job with that volume out the front. And then just a balance between the areas aesthetically. If we run along the lengthwise, that length gives so much to work with. And then you give a proper full width to the vehicle, like the 7X. And proper is a vague term, but I mean for 2 people internally, you've got proper shoulder room. Proper, again, is a vague term, but not compromised is what we're trying to say. You still got to fit on the roads, and the lanes are only so wide, so you're pressing on the edges when you're out at that uncompromised internally sort of width. So give or take a millimetre, we're at that sort of width size. For these bigger vehicle in our lineup, bigger vehicles in our lineup. So what we can have is there's the straddling approach here, a little above the 4,700, maybe not much above, because it's just more length and mass for nothing. We're not doing a third row. We're not pretending to do a third row. So it may land right on the 4,700, 4,050, 4,750. If there was a reason for going bigger, slightly bigger, not to just work with some straddling idea. It's more room to the lower side. It's that 4,600 millimeter length Geely EX5, 4,000, a little notch below. We're there with the B10, and there's the JQ. I haven't got the number in front of me, the brand new JQ that's directly copying styling-wise and putting it on a smaller format, the classic Land Rover, whatever the name is. So these are sizings around that, a step smaller than the 4,700 millimeters. So our 2 vehicles could be there, and instead of pushing to Kiva EV9 or in this sort of place them in lineup, the BMW series, when they get down lower, they don't proportionally sort of get smaller with BMW's X3 to X1, but there's these step throughs, X3 and then X5 and then X7. So our X5 and 7 is added to the existing Scenic, but the X7 wouldn't be the big 3-row sort of thing. It wouldn't be that massive one. So what we're doing is using that spot down at 4,600 or 4,550 and put a vehicle in there to provide for people that there will be sales there where it's a plenty vehicle, there's plenty of vehicle there to work with, and they don't see a reason to go to the bigger one, and they don't really prefer that. They don't prefer, that's not a great phrasing, is it? They prefer not to be so big on the road. Lengthwise, again, why carry around more length? I don't see the reason for it, this sort of thing. That would be the type of buyer, and the vehicle costs just a minute little bit less in proportion to that it only costs a little bit less to make it in truth. Leave out capitalism and the internals of the business and stuff, the play on the customer. Let's just leave that out for the moment. And in truth, it only costs a little bit less to make a vehicle that's only a little bit smaller. And so proportionally the price is such. So in line with that. But the customer has that they saved a few thousand there as well. Now, that's the strategy. Look, this particular vehicle here, it is going to be one of those 4,700 type of lengths, or the 4,600, let's say 4,550 or 580. They're close in size, but one is significantly smaller than the other, and one is significantly bigger than the other. They both have a place, and so on. So this vehicle ends up being one of those. This is just first iteration. After 24 hours, we keep working on it. Now, what you're doing here is differentiating yourself. Somebody could go buy the 7X, or they could buy this. Let's play this as being this is the bigger one. Now, this is the bigger of the two there in the lineup. Let's use that in this discussion here. So we can just fix on a scenario and talk it through straight. So consider if this was 4,720 millimeters, this was your Zeekr X 7X equivalent alternate, and your Tesla Model Y. What we're doing here is giving a distinctly different styling look and a distinctly different functionality over certain aspects, and better functionality over certain aspects than the 7X and the Tesla Model Y, and alike. There's an array of them coming. I just haven't got them all written down on a piece of paper in front of me at the moment. So you then give something that it's not just different in style and functionality in certain aspects, but it's better over certain aspects. It is better that they're making trade-offs, and what we are doing here is making a trade-off over those certain aspects, which is, well, you're keeping the roof higher to the end, and then it does more drops like a cliff off the rear. This means you got exposure to drag, the vacuum effect out the back, turbulence, and in that fill-in the back area. This is a technical matter. So you try and have the airflow come from below, underneath, and fill in the space behind the vehicle, and from above, and have a flow over the roof and stay attached, and then come down and fill in the space. But how well do you get that done? So this is the area we're initially compromising with. Now, the internal engineering is to work for our styling. We have it go all the way to the bottom at the rear there for styling purposes. But internally, we've got a porous airflow, and we are filling in the space behind the vehicle with air that we are sending up from below and angle it up. But we're not doing the full sort of diffuser wrap and angled up at a rate, and have this rear that just is sticking up there, which some vehicle makers do. Instead, you can have a porous airflow approach and give the full volume presence down low, and you get a better styling look, and you've got better crumple zone capacity. And this vehicle's for staying on sealed roads. So we're not needing it's not a factor to try and have spectacular ground clearance and the entry and exit angles. There's a technical term for that, but it's a non-factor with this one. We've got enough clearance on front and rear that we're square on our criteria here for the vehicle's purpose. Now, with this photo, I did not chance trying to make the wheels smaller, as I mentioned early in this file, because the photograph is angled. The vehicle is sitting maybe 20 degrees off square flush. That's the original photo shoot that they did. They put it on an angle, which makes for a very part of the whole effect of it. But trying to photo edit this, you can end up with warped, twisted results if you are using this basic program. You are doing things at basically squares, right angles, yet the picture, everything in it is at a 20-degree angle to the horizontal. So I'll leave the wheels alone here with this photo, but to the design department with the right software, those wheels, this is playing CEO, I'm talking to the design department, you'll get back to me and put the wheelhouse and wheels, you're going to match them to a much smaller setup. We need the driving efficiency, and we're up against 7X and the Smart #5 and the Tesla Model Y next iteration. And how are we going to contend driving efficiency wise? Well, it's a matter of the word of course. The advice is to use that very sparingly. Generally, it's a superfluous word, but when something's extremely obvious, it could be suitable. So it's embarrassingly easy, yet most vehicle manufacturers massively fail in it continuously with all of their vehicles, so it's a terrible wrong by them, which is much smaller wheels, and with that you get smaller tyres, and that means the periphery is less far out. It's a very long list of technical matters when we to fully cover it. We're just skimming across the surface. But the wheel makes that makes the wheel lighter. You still need the strength, so a certain amount of material, pluses and minuses. The spokes might be a bit thicker and so on. But in the end, I mean, you've got a smaller wheel, but it doesn't. Not every part of it shrinks in the proportion with the start wheel, because you have to have the load carrying performance. All true, but you do not end up with a wheel as heavy. If you go smaller, all else being equal, it will be lighter. The wheel is lighter, the tyre is lighter because it's smaller, the periphery is less far out, and that makes for 4% better driving efficiency for every step down, 3 to 4%. So we can go 2 steps down, maybe 3, from the start point on the Scenic top trim wheels, which this photograph is about drawing from. So that means 3.5 plus 3.5, 3 to 4%. Let's go 4 plus 4 plus 4, 12, and then round it downwards, take it down to 10. That's just to start with. There's a whole measure of ways we can improve the efficiency. I'm playing CEO, so that would be me being CEO. So I roll out, here's the 47 ways we can improve the efficiency, and by the time I've finished with it, our vehicle is super efficient, which wouldn't that be what the CEO is supposed to be doing? Right. So the CEO can bring me on team, and I'll be the person internally that can be your efficiency performance person, and then it's quick and easy for you. It's the method of hiring the smartest guy for the task type of description of how a CEO goes about their business in that aspect. So you'll have the engineering experts, and then they will take over they'll be given directives to get applied in the vehicle. But what are the directives? Why are we doing it? That's that lead, top, overarch strategy part. So again, that's where I come in. And that's the idea. I mean, you can do it some other way, but get it done. How about not failing? So there's a long list of these, but you can go to flow form wheels, lighter. You can go to a better spoke pattern, so you get the strength required, but do it very efficiently. And then up your game on the aero potentially. These wheels look like a good balance between aero, truly aero performing, and not just a look. It's got some proper aero performance and this cooling of the frictional brake components. These two things are in conflict. If you go nth degree on one, then you won't get the other properly done. So at some point they conflict. These wheels, just to start with, have good aesthetic and have a good amount of aero while giving the cooling to the brake. So just how light are they? How lean are they on the use of materials? These every kilogram counts in the mass in the wheels themselves, and any rotational mass, the frictional brake components, is so penalising. So we need to get in on those brake components because they are typically so appallingly heavy, and there's such room for improvement there. The brake disc rotor, the caliper, and if you improve the frictional performance of the brake pads and the clamping power and the stiffness of the caliper, get them lighter, get them more compact, you can get to a smaller wheel. And then we're driving an electric vehicle here. The frictional brakes do light duty. How much heat management do you really need instead of steel? If they did that, some manufacturers do it. It's low cost, it handles the heat. It's been just able to absorb a lot of heat and then dissipate it, but it's terribly heavy. So aluminium alloy, slotted grooves, these sort of things. If there's room for improvement here, we could super lightweight this whole rotational mass. That's just to start with. There's so many things we can do across the vehicle. And this is how we get to Tesla Model 3 and Tesla Model Y, not just the wheels, but everything else, type of efficiency, but with a vehicle that has better functionality over so much. The headroom in the first and second row, and then the vision out the back and the side windows for the driver with proper full-size windows and so on and so on and so on. And then for many buyers, they would end up choosing to go with this. They prefer this vehicle because of the functionality, because of it's a better driving experience, better visibility out. The list goes on. It's that the other vehicles there in the lineup don't do it as well. The Smart Hashtag 5 hopefully does these things quite well, hopefully. But part of the design here, it's not shown because we've got this particular angle. This rear tailgate goes way down. Way down. It's sort of it's got a similarity, if we try and reference something here, to the classic van slab back. And it's a big one piece, make it light with a framework that's very light material, because we don't want a big heavy door system making a weakness for the vehicle, and we don't want extra mass up high. So we super light to weight that and spend the money in the right places, the smart management. And then with this sort of tailgate going all the way down, see where the red lights continue on from the darker grey area, which represents the window section. Well, internally where the red, if we were looking at the rear flush on, the glass part reaches down further than where the red light part is. It reaches a bit further down. So we have a very large, and make that glass light and strong and good thermal insulation and acoustic insulation all at the same time, so that it doesn't come in with any weakness. And I know it costs, but how much more, and spend the money in the right places and have this spectacular rear tailgate system. Bring me on team and I'll show you exactly what I mean. And this will mean that rear will be very good looking, very handsome. And that is working this whole so superior in so many particular ways over the 7X and even the Smart Hashtag 5, which currently has a very short and deficient rear window. So, let's hope they follow the new trend in the industry once it's set, as I'm putting it forwards here, and their next generation follows suit, and we have a proper rear window. Now, this goes to a whole set of superiorities that are just inherent in the vehicle's shape. And then we do a whole good job with engineering, and it ends up being a spectacular offering. So there's a long list. I need to stop talking so long here, but there's hundreds of things, checklist points and so on, that I would bring to the development of this vehicle, and by the time I'm finished with it, it would be a very excellent value purchase vehicle. So this is the assignment, and it is doable, and you just need a whole combination of smart going on so that we can get the superiorities, get the performance, and not have a dollar cost blowout. So bring me on team and I'll get amongst it. Now, there's many, let's just get back to stand back at overview. There's many wagon designs I've got after 24 hours of design work. I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. These are distinct different ones. They give a whole sort of different character look and so on. And we know that we can come up with a number of different wagon type of designs. But it is, for presentation here in the video, it's best to just present one, so we're not jumping around as much and we can just talk things through. So hence I'll put this one forwards. And this, if somebody says, I think that line should be improved, it can be cleaned up. I can see some things where that could be further cleaned up, but it gets to smaller and smaller details. We get the overview here. That's somewhere I've got to draw a line and say, let's just be able to put things forwards so it's clean enough and fair judgment, fair play. If people get it, they can say, yes, right, those little line features would be cleaned up. So I re-emphasize here, visually, the vehicle would have a much smaller wheelhouse and wheels, and then with the smaller wheels, it does end up looking good on the vehicle because you designed it with smaller wheels. That is, the wheelhouse is smaller, and everything that you worked off the wheelhouse as you go outwards, and where you place the wheels and the wheelhouse for the overhangs. This is all part of the design work and many different variants, so we can look at them, hundreds of different photos, and see where to put the wheels on the horizontal. In the end, the result is something that aesthetically looks excellent. But you have to build the wheelhouse and its placing and how it sits with the rest of the metalwork in the vehicle. You have to build it as part of the whole. And then if you've got the smaller wheels, you need the smaller wheelhouse. So understand, if we just follow this through, you cannot put the much bigger wheels on the vehicle. You could go a size bigger and then go medium low profile. But that's it. I mean, don't go super low profile. It gets to super low sidewall of the tire is what's been said by low profile. So medium low profile can give different driving dynamics, give a sort of look. Somebody could choose to do that. That's one size up in wheel and medium low profile. But that's it. You can't go bigger and bigger because the wheelhouse is a certain size. It is smaller. We made the wheelhouse smaller on the inside because we don't need bigger with these wheels we're putting on. And there's no sense in putting bigger wheels on the vehicle. Full stop. Number two is that frees up space inside with the smaller wheelhouse. That helps with crumple zone performance and internal cabin. And when it comes to rear wheel, the crumple zone performance when we're dealing with both front and rear in certain degrees. You got the wheelhouse has a hardness and all this, and that doesn't fit with crumple zone. And there's the wheel and the suspension system, and that whole unsprung mass. It's a very hard, strong structure. It needs to be, but that's incompatible with the best level crumple zone. So, if you've got the bigger wheel and it's got to handle that mass bouncing around, then you're going to need bigger of everything in terms of the arms structures that hold it. And this means that would have us going up a unit size on each of them. That means a higher price on each of them, more mass on each of them. It's got many negative effects. But if we go to much smaller, let's say significantly smaller and much lighter wheels and lighter tires and lighter brake components, then we have lighter of these arm structures and suspension systems that hold all of that. So mass reduction, reduction of mass in unsprung mass, reduction of the rotational mass, improvement. Hit it 1,000 times and we still haven't finished. And we've got better crumple zone performance as well. And back to the look, if you design the vehicle with the smaller wheelhouses for multiple reasons, and the wheelhouse outer, and amongst it, to make the smaller wheels look good, you have to have the smaller wheelhouse with the smaller wheelhouse outer. Let's phrase that. You have to, because have to is a very strong term. To make it look good, the smaller wheels look good, you have to have this outer presentation on the outer be there matchingly smaller, so that you're not just left with some massive gap and it looks silly. So if you get an existing vehicle and has these big whopping wheelhouse and the big open space and you put smaller wheels on, it looks ridiculous. Then people say small wheels look ridiculous, but they're being unsophisticated. So the thing is that if you had that same size of body, so we'd need to thoroughly tighten this up and talk about a particular vehicle. But if you have a vehicle a certain size of body, and if it was built with and very well designed when it's done here with smaller wheelhouse outer look, then you put those same smaller wheels on. So do it in all sensible way. You put on some excellent looking wheels in themselves. They're just a certain smaller size. And then you have the full sidewall tyre or medium low profile tyre. So the wheel and tyre look is good in itself. And now you've got wheelhouses that match it, then the body's the same and the vehicle looks good. It all looks appropriate. So there's the comparison. Now we identified what the problem was. The wheelhouse outer was too big for the wheels that were on it. You cannot go endlessly smaller, we know that. There has to be a proportionality between the vehicle size, body, and the wheels. Ultimately, there's a line there. But over and over again in the industry, they have wheelhouses that are just so massively big, open on the outer, and that's blocked us from going to the smaller wheel. And that's an unforced error by the company. To them, they're not calling it an error, but what the solution here is what's just been talked about. So, in fact, we can go to smaller wheels and the vehicle looks spectacularly gorgeous, no trade-off in looks. So that just needs to be thoroughly understood, and some people don't understand it, even some in the industry that they haven't done. So if they're prejudiced against it, it's just a rule out and they're not even exploring it. So let's get this sorted out. So with this vehicle design, I'm playing CEO, I'm in charge here in this scenario. Then I'm getting all that done. We'll have the smaller wheelhouses well integrated into the look of the vehicle, well placed on the horizontal, and everything is meshed, tied together. That's the designer's job. Let's assimilate all of that. And then the smaller wheels will look great on the vehicle, and our vehicle will be, just to start with, 12% better efficient. But by the time we're finished, it'll be 45% better efficient compared to a sort of plotter, unsophisticated equivalent design. But because they're skilled and determined to make the excellent vehicle value purchase a superb driving machine, then we get it done. So don't scoff at the 45%. If then you found out, well, we get that 45% better off a fair start point, not cheating by having a ridiculously inefficient vehicle to start with. But then if you scoffed and then bring me on team and I get it done, then, what's the phrase? You'll have embarrassed yourself. It's doable. And then if you say, well, you got it done, but you cheated. Cheating or strategy, or which one? What are you calling it? I would say weren't we supposed to get it done? And then in fact it's, that's getting it done and it works, and there's really no cheat. It's just you didn't use those strategies, you didn't look at it. It's doable. Right. So what we have is, and that let's have a little context there. That's for some of the offerings in the vehicle lineup, as they have now, current trims, different trims, and so on and so on. But you can have certain different trims, for want of a better term, that just are super prioritizing the efficiency aspect. And same vehicle shape, right? Understand the rules here. On the outer, it looks like this. If it was this vehicle with the smaller wheelhouse and smaller wheels, the vehicle you're getting and the accommodation internally, the body styling did not change. So that's sort of the rules here. All right. Now, my job here is to bring the file to the end. So this is part of the 5-vehicle lineup. The Scenic is the existing start point. And many people would buy the bigger one, either one of the bigger ones, the 4,580 millimeter, 4,650 millimeter maybe. What are we doing? 4,600, let's just round it up to that. and then the 4700. So these ones are this type of full height roof all the way to the back, and the lower window line, so we have visibility out. These two are the full functionality sort of offerings. If you want basically what is a sedan, people call it an SUV, but the Scenic E-Tech 2025 is really a sedan sort of setup. And it's compromised heavily at the back, and nobody is confused about that. They've even got the camera out the back, and you can use the rear view mirror in the mode of displaying the capture of the camera out the back, because Renault knows that the rear view mirror trying to look out the rear window does not work. It does not work. The rear window is so small. So then headroom and such, we go through a list, and the side windows and such, your visibility and the angle they've got on the Scenic, as they've currently got it, the angle of the A-pillars means those A-pillars are right in the way in sort of a nasty way. And then the box they put in the middle of the windscreen, what many vehicle makers do, they put this massive blind spot in the middle of the windscreen, and the middle of the viewing point for many drivers who are that sort of 6 foot height. If you look at where their head is and drew the geometry line coming out of their eyes, that box which the rear view mirror hangs off, and in recent years the box has become this big, massive black box, is a massive blind spot in the windscreen. Now, that is criminal. That will lead to crashes, and it should be banned worldwide by legislation, and it's unnecessary. But you have to recognize it's not okay. It's not acceptable to put a blind spot in the middle of the windscreen. We're supposed to see what's out in front of us. It doesn't get easier than that, really. I mean, these year 8 person put in charge of making a vehicle who's capable, and then it just hasn't looked into this, and they say, we'll make a vehicle, and they just think it through. I need to see out the front, so I'm not going to put anything in the middle of the windscreen, am I? And so on and so on. Now, also, you make the climb of the A-pillars steeper, and a number of other things, so that you've got better vision out the back. So if I was in charge, I'd have the high roof version of the Scenic E-Tech, that length of vehicle if people want that, and there is sales that go to that segment. We know that, recognize that, and this is that management. When I would not buy that length of vehicle, I would buy the one size up, which the plan here is to provide that. You've got such a good looking body, so well tied together on the across the body on the outside, and then the internals. You've got an excellent opportunity. You need to recognize it and then go to town with this, as said early in this file. So it's the new brand look over your sort of passenger vehicle set, but not loosely, just totally tightly the same. If it's perfect, then just use it on everything. Nobody tires of it. They love it. They want it. The current Megane is different and inferior than the Scenic E-Tech. So if you get the Megane, put a proper high roof on it, that's a smaller one, fix up the Megane. The roof on the Megane is way too small. Put a higher roof on the Megane, and there's your much shorter length vehicle on the horizontal. And then put the Scenic E-Tech face on it, and the whole wraparound all the way to the back, and they've tied it together. And then you'd have the upgraded Megane. Do that immediately. And then you'd have the Megane and E-Tech with high roof, proper high roof, and a number of other fixes. And then you bring in these longer 2 version passenger vehicles, which what we're looking at here, this can be, for example, one of those. And then there's the fix on the Kangoo. I would change the name. They're medium, short wheelbase and longer wheelbase, small van. The thing is about that is, well, it's a commercial van, yes, understood. But what if it was very attractive? What if it had the Scenic E-Tech face on it? and the whole wraparound on the body over some lower parts maybe, and at the rear just some of the treatment there. And then in the cabin, because it only really has the front seat area in the van for the commercial version, what if it had the sort of cockpit that this vehicle has in it? And then this van as a commercial van would be much admired and would be picked by many. If you say we can put these things on, it does not end up costing much more for us to make, and then we just pass it through, as in we're not classifying it as a luxury vehicle because it's gorgeous and stuff. No, it just doesn't cost that much more to make it that attractive. And so what you'd get is a lot more sales. You get sales and you make profit by the Ford method, Ford T model back in the original day of Ford, where you've got a small margin of profit and you go for volume of sales. So think that way, and think that way, which I mentioned earlier, about these aesthetics you put on this. And this type of idea with the van, I'm talking too much about the van with the photo of this other one. So I'll try and shorten this and go to the van next here for the next video with that photo of that up on screen. So let's just try and cauterize this. So there's opportunity with the van, and you would have a passenger. This is a connection to this. That would be your other passenger vehicle option. So there's a commercial version, but then the van, that same van on the outside, has the passenger set up as well. And some people would buy that. That has the extra high roof and certain shape and style and so on. And so that would be your other passenger category. Then you'd have 5 vehicles, various lengths, and amongst it covering certain stylings and format, and that van then would finish off that passenger category. So that's why I mentioned it here, because it's passenger as well as commercial van. So I'll show that in the next video with the van, with again 24 hours of work on doing photo edits, and so it's just a particular take on it and a piece to talk with on screen at the time. So I'll end this file here. This is part of the 5 vehicle set that Scenic could make off, Renault could make off the Scenic E-Tech 2025. And looking at the business model for this is a winner. And looking at what would be those 5 vehicles and why, and looking at a particular design here, and so on, talking this through. So to the next video I'll do the van next because it segues with this last part, and I'll end the file there. Thank you for listening, and get the CEO of Renault to look at this video and thoroughly sit with it, listen through, and understand, and then bring me on team, and it'd be fun to put it all together, make it happen. And then you can be there leading the way in certain things in the industry, and leading in the way in style with this magnificent Scenic E-Tech that you've got. Just put on all 5 vehicles, this styling, and that beautiful cockpit and the internal fabrics and so on. And there's much there that would make the whole synthesis of vehicle set of 5 be leaders of the pack for people. And think, value purchase, think that way, and get volume of sales, think that way, shift a bit, instead of trying to press to be the other BMW, Mercedes, etc., and then lower volumes of sales and higher price. You're just getting the volumes of sales so we can reach for that value purchase and bring it home. You can end up getting a good piece of the pie and retaining it over the long term in volume of sales and make good profits, and it works out best. So I'll end this file here, and then to the next video for the van talk through. End of file.